Harry and Meghan, it's more a case of never reign and never abstain.
Developing right now, Meghan Markle is trying to kid the world that all is fine with as ever.
This whole thing is a mess.
I can feel my brain cells dying with each and every passing second of Meghan giving more fun tips.
Americans feel like Prince Harry is an emotional con artist.
She doesn't want her jam or her friendship
Want to gouge out my ears while Meghan Markle is speaking.
Grifter. It was
She
a dark
doesn't know
day
what
for the
hard
royal
work is.
family when she met Harry.
This woman is a born manipulator.
I think Netflix is aware that there's a weird car crash mentality surrounding Meghan.
Meghan Markle's luxury lifestyle brand was supposed to make her a billionaire. Now it's in free fall. Critics say she's draining royal cash faster than ever. Meghan Markle's dream of ruling the lifestyle world is turning into a nightmare. Her As Ever brand, once hyped as a game changer, is reportedly on the brink of collapse.
The gaslighting and carefully worded post is so Meghan clapping back. It's not season 2, Meg, and As Ever, I assume that is a purposeful typo, is dead.
Insiders say it's just not selling. Worse, they claim Meghan and Harry have been propping up the brand with whatever's left of the royal inheritance, desperate to keep up appearances of wealth and success. From out-of-touch product launches to suspicious sellout claims, the cracks are starting to show. And if you think the drama ends there, think again. This might be the final straw in the couple's disastrous financial gamble.
You just launched As Ever, sold out. Everything sold out in under an hour.
Everything. Yeah.
And
5 minutes.
Wow, you sold out. You sold out so quickly.
We sold out in minutes. Yeah, that's because you only had 20 items for sale.
At first, As Ever looked unstoppable. Glossy teasers, celebrity shoutouts, and a raspberry spread that allegedly sold out in under an hour. But reporters later discovered that only a tiny batch had gone on sale, and months passed with no restock, sparking whispers that the sellout was more PR padding than consumer frenzy. Industry analysts claim the follow-up launches were plagued by confused messaging and near radio silence from retailers. A veteran merch buyer, speaking off the record, says wholesalers couldn't get straight answers on pricing, quantities, or even basic shipping dates, prompting many to walk away before listings ever went live.
Clearly, Meghan has decided, okay, there's not going to be enough money in my scam jam. So this week she announced this pivot towards fashion.
Behind the scenes, palace sources allege Meghan and Harry quietly dipped into inheritance reserves to cover mounting bills. First for emergency production runs, then for influencer contracts designed to keep the Instagram buzz alive. Whether those funds came from Harry's trust or residuals tied to past royal engagements remains murky, but insiders insist the cash burn accelerated dramatically once early sales flatlined. And while Meghan's team publicly blamed supply chain snags, skeptics point out that rival boutique brands weathered the same climate without vanishing from shelves. Now, with social media turning sour and critics dubbing As Ever a 5-year makeover flop, the Sussexes face a stark choice: pivot fast or watch their lifestyle empire crumble in real time. The next moves, frantic rebrand, sudden liquidation, or a fresh plea for royal cash, could decide whether this crisis is a short-term stumble or the headline that finally bankrupts the brand. As one retail consultant quips, in this market, sentiment can flip overnight, and for Meghan, the goodwill window is closing fast.
Yeah, so I'm a founder now. My company's called As Ever, products that you can't get anywhere else, like jam.
Jam?
Yeah.
Jam? No kidding.
It's a huge market, huge.
Insiders who once gushed about Meghan's billionaire in 5 years roadmap now paint a far grimmer portrait. They whisper that the moment the raspberry spread sold out, the brand's momentum stalled because there was simply nothing left to sell. Warehouse workers, speaking on background, claimed the initial batch was so small it fit on a single pallet. Yet the marketing team trumpeted the depletion as proof of unstoppable demand. Retail scouts who inquired about restock dates say they were met with vague assurances and ever-shifting timelines. One buyer, tired of waiting, joked that As Ever's production schedule felt guided by moon phases, not supply chains. From there, the misfires multiplied. The lavender pancake mix arrived without a clear baking temperature guide, prompting influencer chefs to quietly scrap sponsored posts rather than field angry follower questions. A luxe tea set promised notes of rose and quartz energy, but early reviewers complained it tasted like watered-down potpourri. Even the brand's minimalist packaging, praised in focus groups, became a headache when barcodes allegedly peeled off in transit, leaving fulfillment teams guessing what products were inside.
American Riviera Orchard, I'm going to sell you my jam and my honey, and it's going to be, here's a TV show. Oh, wait a minute, I can't call it American Riviera Orchard. All right, then, got a new name, As Ever. How's that? Yeah, that'll do.
Meanwhile, Meghan's social channels kept teasing coming soon launches that slipped further down the calendar. Critics on fashion forums began tracking the delays in real time, counting the weeks between each promised restock and the sound of silence that followed. Back in Montecito, staff say the mood turned from triumph to triage. Meghan, once the picture of confidence, started holding strategy calls at dawn, grilling consultants on why the viral buzz had evaporated. One brand advisor claimed she demanded a fresh manifesto framing As Ever as artisanal scarcity, arguing that selling out instantly was the whole point. The team pushed back, warning that scarcity only drives desire if customers believe more inventory is on the horizon. Without restocks, they cautioned, scarcity looks like failure. According to those present, the exchange ended with frustrated silence and a plan to relaunch bigger in the fall, though no one could say where the cash for that relaunch would come from. By late summer, murmurs of unpaid invoices reached industry ears. One flavor house quietly halted shipments after 2 billing cycles went unanswered. Rumor had it Meghan's accountants were sifting through personal reserves and charitable advances, trying to plug holes before word spread further. But word always spreads. Boutique grocers began pulling As Ever placeholders from their online catalogs, and lifestyle editors who'd once angled for exclusives now sought comment on whether the brand was still alive.
And Louise, on that post for All Life, a little bit of confused messaging this week over the future of As Ever. Is it being put on hold? Is it launching new products? What's actually going on?
In the span of a season, Meghan's would-be empire shifted from next big thing to cautionary tale, a reminder that glossy teasers mean little when the shelves stay empty. Those close to the palace money men whisper that the Sussex coffers now resemble a leaky bucket. Every attempt to plug one hole seems to spring another. According to insiders, the couple's early confidence in As Ever's 7-figure pre-orders evaporated once supplier invoices and influencer retainers started landing on the same day. Staffers claim Harry tapped the last of a high-yield trust originally meant to cover security costs, while Meghan allegedly directed Archwell accountants to advance funds earmarked for future charity projects, hoping a quick retail rebound would replace the cash before auditors noticed. When that rebound never surfaced, the pair, so the rumors go, found themselves in the uncomfortable position of asking Montecito lenders for bridge financing against projected holiday sales that still hadn't been finalized. Behind palace walls, word of these frantic withdrawals reportedly reached King Charles's private secretary, who, sources say, flagged the pattern as unsustainable. Courtiers quietly noted that any further dip into inheritance reserves could jeopardize obligations, already earmarked for maintenance of royal properties Harry still uses when he visits Britain. Yet the Sussex team, determined to keep As Ever afloat, allegedly asked whether a short-term infusion might be justified to protect the family brand. The palace answer, insiders insist, was a curt no, fueling fresh tension and stoking talk that Meghan saw the refusal as yet another royal slight.
And what we haven't seen, Paula, is any more details of the phenomenal sales of the As Ever range. Because I suspect what happened was they had about 3 pots of jam that sold out because they bought them all.
Strawberry sauce.
And ever since, there hasn't been actually any update on the extraordinary sales. And I suspect it's just tanking like everything else they do.
Friends of the couple paint a more sympathetic picture. They claim Meghan and Harry are simply bridging a cash gap created by supply chain delays and plan to repay every penny once the brand's much-promised relaunch lands. Even so, whispers persist that at least one West Coast lender demanded collateral far beyond the couple's media royalties, hinting that the Sussex's projected earnings no longer impress big-ticket financiers. A Montecito realtor even jokes that Harry's polo gear is worth more liquid on eBay than the unsold crates of lavender pancake mix piling up in a third-party warehouse outside Pasadena. Whether these claims are exaggerated or dead on, one fact feels undeniable. Every month, As Ever limps along without a decisive turnaround, Meghan and Harry burn through capital they can't easily replace. And with King Charles reportedly refusing to underwrite the venture, the couple's last line of royal credit may have run dry, leaving their lifestyle empire balanced on a razor-thin line between reinvention and outright insolvency. Product after product seemed to backfire the moment it met real customers. The raspberry heritage spread arrived in minimalist jars, so small shoppers joked they were sample sizes. but carried a price tag that rivaled high-end truffle honey. Food bloggers peeled off the chic label and discovered ordinary fruit preserve underneath. Some even compared it to grocery store jam in blind taste tests, sparking a mini uproar on foodie TikTok. Then came the edible flour sprinkles, trumpeted as a zero-waste garnish. Critics quickly noted the petals looked more like potpourri shavings than culinary garnish, and a nutrition watchdog site questioned why the product lacked standard allergen warnings. By the time Meghan's team rushed out a clarifying statement, screenshots of customer refunds were already circulating on Reddit threads dedicated to luxury flops.
The best way to have a snack is to take the snack out of one bag and then move them into another bag and then label this new bag, even though this bag already has a label on it. Tap water!
The so-called wellness water bottle, marketed as crystal-infused and blessed by moonlight, fared no better. Early buyers claimed the rose quartz insert rattled loose on the first wash, while others posted photos of condensation trapped between the crystal chamber and the glass, implying a mold hazard. A micro-influencer who partnered for the launch quietly deleted her sponsored reel after followers bombarded her comments with side-by-side comparisons to a near-identical bottle from a discount retailer at a tenth of the price. When the product vanished from As Ever's web store overnight, customer service blamed inventory reconciliation, though insiders whisper it was quietly recalled to avoid a potential PR nightmare over safety complaints. Even the brand's eco-chic packaging, an early selling point during press briefings, turned into a headache. Retail staff say the biodegradable labels disintegrated in humid stockrooms, leaving mystery white canisters no scanner could identify. One upscale grocer allegedly returned an entire pallet after discovering the QR codes had dissolved into blurry smudges that confused checkout systems. Meghan's design team countered that the packaging was planet first, but merchants grumbled they needed something customer-proof before talking reorders. Amid these misfires, whispers spread that internal Slack channels were flooded with frantic damage control ideas, a limited edition candle, a sudden wellness retreat pop-up, even a rumored collaboration with a heritage tea house to rebuild credibility. Nothing stuck. Each quick fix seemed to stall at the same roadblock, production costs rising, cash reserves thinning, and faith in As Ever's promise fading faster than a sticker on a damp jar.
Well, no, because she's allegedly, potentially being sued for her bath salts that she promoted on Netflix. So I wouldn't trust her around bathwater either. That's a very good point.
From the outside, As Ever's early sold-out blasts looked like a masterstroke in scarcity marketing. Every headline crowed that Meghan's debut range had vanished within minutes. But retail insiders now whisper that the fanfare masked a far smaller truth. Tiny production runs deliberately capped just high enough to trumpet success, yet too low to prove genuine demand. One distributor claims the so-called launch inventory of raspberry spread was smaller than a weekend farmer's market allotment, shipped to a single fulfillment center, so Meghan's comms team could screenshot the empty stock page and feed it to lifestyle editors. Behind the scenes, the same distributor says merchants were quietly told to hold off on purchase orders until a second batch materialized, only it never did. That maneuver might have bought As Ever a few buzzy headlines, but it also lit a fuse beneath wary customers. Social media sleuths compared timestamps on Meghan's celebratory Instagram stories to cached versions of the product page and noticed the sold-out badge appeared within moments of the first listing. Skeptical bloggers then dug deeper, cross-referencing supplier receipts that, if genuine, showed enough jars for barely a few hundred shoppers. Their verdict: staged scarcity. Within days, the Queen Bee influencers who had championed the launch found themselves fielding awkward DMs, asking why no one could restock a runaway hit. Some quietly archived their posts, unwilling to be part of what followers now dubbed ghost inventory. As the dust settled, the brand scrambled to reframe. Emails went out claiming the shortage proved As Ever's artisanal ethos, promising handcrafted restocks soon. But without proof of production scaling up, that line rang hollow. Retail analysts pointed out that boutique competitors with genuine viral demand usually follow a sellout with a waitlist or pre-order system. As Ever offered neither. And when weeks turned into months with no sign of those promised restocks, even loyal Sussex supporters began asking whether the sellout story was less a badge of success and more a smokescreen for underfunded logistics.
She's saying she's pausing her lifestyle brand because she's worried that maybe the quality of the stock or the quantity of the stock as well is not up to par, and people will be annoyed if they try and order some jam or some flour sprinkles and they don't actually get to buy these things.
Inside Montecito, staffers reportedly debated a radical PR reset. perhaps admitting supply limits up front and spinning it as intentional exclusivity. Yet Meghan, sources say, worried any admission would tarnish the aura of unstoppable momentum. So the silence stretched on, order inquiries piled up, and the brand's credibility frayed. By the time autumn rolled around, the lack of transparency had done what no palace aide ever could. It turned curiosity into suspicion, leaving as ever's once buzzing fan base wondering if the emperor's new clothes were really just empty shelves dressed in fancy copy. Whispers from palace corridors suggest Meghan's cash crunch has triggered a new wave of tension with King Charles, one she may never have intended but now can't seem to escape. According to insiders, Meghan framed the need for a short-term infusion as a matter of family solidarity, arguing that a relaunched As Ever could bolster the Sussex name and, by extension, protect the royal brand from further embarrassment. Courtiers weren't convinced. They reportedly reminded Charles that the duchy's coffers had already absorbed years of security costs and relocation expenses, while Meghan and Harry continued to pursue projects that openly challenged the crown's authority. Any direct subsidy, now, aides warned, would look like the monarchy underwriting a vanity venture, especially after those eyebrow-raising, sold-out claims fizzled into customer frustration. Meghan, insiders allege, didn't take the refusal lightly. Some say she pointed to the brand's eco-messaging and royal heritage recipes as proof the venture served the firm's long-term image. Others claim she hinted that a collapse would invite months of negative press, stories about unpaid artisans, abandoned wellness promises, and a royal couple forced to scale back their charitable footprint. The response from Charles's camp, these sources insist, was blunt. Responsibility rests with the Sussexes, who chose independence and must therefore finance it without leaning on ancestral reserves. That line reportedly landed like a slap, reinforcing Meghan's belief that the palace will never endorse her vision, only judge it from afar. Harry, caught between loyalty to his wife and a dwindling inheritance, is said to have floated a compromise, perhaps a low-interest family loan, documented and repayable once As Ever rebounds. Palace accountants, wary of bad optics and worse odds, allegedly advised against any arrangement that might later be framed as hush money or hush capital. The standoff left Meghan furious, Harry torn, and Charles determined to draw a bright line between crown funds and California crises. For now, word is, Meghan has pivoted to private lenders and silent partner investors, pitching a Phase 2 rebrand heavy on storytelling and limited edition drops. Yet potential backers, already spooked by disappearing inventory and rumors of unpaid invoices, seem wary. Without royal cash, or royal goodwill, the brand's survival may hinge on whether Meghan can persuade financiers that As Ever's next act won't mirror its first, all sizzle, no stock.
Why would you launch a company, a brand, if you have no clue how to restock and are struggling with your manufacturers? Why would you do that?
Publicly, Meghan continues to promote As Ever as a visionary, slow luxury line on the cusp of a grand resurgence, an image perfectly echoed in glossy interviews that still gush over her tastemaker aura. Readers of a recent lifestyle feature were treated to sun-drenched photos of terracotta patios, lavender sprigs, and Meghan extolling mindful craftsmanship, as if the brand's shelves were already brimming. Yet retail trackers quietly note that the only items consistently in stock are inspirational quote cards and a digital recipe PDF, hardly the flagship lineup promised 2 springs ago. That disconnect is becoming impossible to hide. Industry insiders, who once applauded Meghan's pitch for a 5-year makeover, now admit off the record that the timeline looks less like a roadmap and more like moving goalposts. They point to her shifting rhetoric. In early profiles, As Ever aimed to democratize eco-luxury. Months later, it morphed into hyper-curated scarcity. Most recently, Meghan framed the delays as hand-in-hand with nature's rhythms, a phrase skeptics interpret as code for suppliers still unpaid. One former brand consultant jokes the mission statement has changed more times than the packaging prototypes, and each tweak costs money the venture can't spare. Meanwhile, hard sales numbers tell their own story. Data quietly shared among competitors suggests As Ever's web traffic peaked during launch week and has dwindled ever since, with conversion rates hovering well below niche boutique averages. Social buzz mirrors the slump. Hashtags that once overflowed with unboxing reels now brim with memes about phantom restocks. Influencers who once queued for PR parcels have pivoted to reviewing rival brands that actually deliver on pre-order promises. Meghan's media team counters with polished carousel posts and scripted insider updates. But without fresh inventory, the optimism feels increasingly hollow. Even friendly fashion editors, sensing a credibility risk, have begun soft-pedaling coverage. A major women's magazine recently buried a planned as-ever feature behind a spread on heritage knitwear, substituting a single pull quote from Meghan, where an entire interview once sat. Privately, an editor confides that readers tire quickly of aspiration without availability. They'll indulge a delay, but not a disappearing act. If As Ever's relaunch doesn't materialize soon, the gap between Meghan's media spin and retail reality could widen into an irreversible chasm, one no amount of curated sunlight can soften. Whispers from inside the Montecito bubble say the penny pinching has reached a point where even loyal staff can no longer ignore the tremors.
Despite the fact that there has been no restock of product after weeks and weeks and weeks, and we now learn that there will be nothing new until next year.
A discreet wave of consultant contract pauses went out last month, followed by abrupt calendar invitations for one-on-one exit meetings. Signals, insiders claim, that As Ever is trimming headcount without calling it layoffs. Graphic designers, once tasked with endless color palette revisions, now find their Slack channels archived overnight. Marketing assistants discover their key cards deactivated on a Monday, told to invoice for final miscellaneous hours, and expect payment when reconciliation closes. Vendors, too, are allegedly feeling the pinch. A small batch candle maker says invoices have lingered past 60 days, and a flavor chemist swears a final formulation fee is still in limbo. While Meghan's finance team requests updated W-9s, a stalling tactic he believes to push obligations into next quarter. To the outside world, the Sussex camp insists these moves are a streamlining phase, positioning the cuts as a strategic pivot toward leaner, more artisanal production. Yet insiders interpret the silence differently. A cash flow triage meant to buy time while Meghan pursues fresh capital injections. Rumor has it at least one private equity meeting ended with a polite pass after investors asked for proof of sustained demand. Proof the brand couldn't supply beyond glossy lookbooks and promises of magnetic resonance with the mindful consumer. Meanwhile, unpaid social media influencers quietly purge As Ever tags from their grids, unwilling to promote products their followers can't purchase. Even household budgeting has tightened, sources claim. One longtime driver says the hybrid fleet now idles less, replaced by discreet ride-share pickups to cut fuel and insurance costs. A personal trainer accustomed to weekly sunrise sessions reports being asked to bill every other visit, a courtesy he hasn't seen since the pandemic crunch. These micro-cutbacks, seemingly trivial on their own, add up to a portrait of a brand, indeed a household, hunting for liquidity wherever it can find a drip. Whether these stories are exaggerated jitters or smoke from a genuine fire, the pattern is hard to ignore. Shrinking teams, stalled invoices, and a hush that hangs heavier each week. If As Ever can't reverse the tide soon, observers warn that the quiet layoffs could morph into public insolvency, turning Meghan's once glittering wellness empire into yet another cautionary tale, shelved alongside half-remembered celebrity. Side hustles. Those privy to the couple's inner circle whisper that Prince Harry is feeling the financial squeeze more acutely than anyone expected. Once confident that streaming deals and speaking tours would cushion any dip in royal support, he's now said to be poring over balance sheets, asking tough questions his advisors never thought he'd raise. Questions about runway, liquidity, and how long they can keep vendors at bay before headlines turn truly savage.
When I was reviewing her website in real time, doing my video, it said coming soon. But then, like 5 minutes later, we see that she put sold out.
Insiders claim he's begun floating contingency ideas that veer from the sentimental to the sensational. One rumor has him considering a follow-up memoir pitched as A Fatherhood Journey, a softer sequel to his explosive autobiography aimed at coaxing sympathetic pre-orders and a fresh advance. Another suggestion, passed quietly to a stateside production house, involves a limited episode reality series shot on neutral ground. No palace digs, just philanthropic road trips that could be packaged as purpose-driven content yet slotted neatly into a lucrative unscripted lane. Those proposals reportedly unsettle Meghan, who fears that a second tell-all or fly-on-the-wall format could derail her bid to reframe their brand as aspirational rather than confessional. She is said to prefer polished documentaries and evergreen lifestyle specials. Harry, desperate to plug immediate gaps, is rumored to be leaning toward anything that delivers cash up front. Audience fatigue be damned. Friends of the Duke describe late-night calls to publishing contacts, exploratory chats about advanced structures, even quiet feelers to former military charities receptive to a docuseries on veteran resilience, projects that, in normal times, might have been spaced across a decade, not crammed into a single brainstorming sprint. Complicating matters, financial advisors are allegedly pressing Harry to downsize certain Montecito expenses, suggesting he offload a seldom-used vintage Land Rover or sublet the detached guest house to offset property taxes. Such talk reportedly lands poorly with Meghan, who views every visible cutback as a dent in the lifestyle veneer she has fought to maintain. The result, insiders say, is a rising tension that bubbles beneath even mundane conversations. One aide recounts a breakfast meeting where a simple query about ad buy budget spiraled into a heated back and forth on brand stewardship versus survival mode, ending with Harry slipping out for an impromptu beach run, earbuds in, phone buzzing with missed calls. Whether any of these stopgap schemes come to pass, observers agree on one point. Harry's once steady confidence has given way to anxious pragmatism. If as ever cannot reboot revenue swiftly, the Duke may be forced to choose between protecting the family image and accepting projects he once dismissed as too exposing. For a couple who left royal life seeking independence and control, that crossroads could prove the most painful twist yet. The walls of glam-shot optimism are closing in, and every fresh rumor now feels like a countdown clock. Meghan's slow luxury empire, once touted as the next billion-dollar disruptor, has slipped into a hush of disappearing products, paused invoices, and quietly archived influencer posts. Behind the curtain, staff whisper of spreadsheet, triage and midnight brainstorms that end with more questions than answers. Harry, once certain California sunshine would deliver creative freedom and cash in equal measure, now paces between book deal calls and budget audits, torn between quick money and long-term image. The palace, meanwhile, watches from a distance, unmoved, unsympathetic, and unwilling to patch the leak with ancient gold. If as ever can't conjure a credible relaunch, real inventory, paid vendors, tangible proof that the brand is more than curated aspiration, the fallout won't just dent the Sussex image, it could drain the last reserves that keep the Montecito dream afloat. Lenders are circling, lawyers are drafting contingency clauses, and even loyal supporters admit a relabeled Phase 2 drop will need more than moon-charged water bottles to win back trust. A fast sale to a silent partner? Bankruptcy whispers couched as restructuring? Or the nuclear option? A public admission that the venture simply ran out of road. Any path forward risks confirming what critics have long suspected. Glossy narrative can't outrun hard numbers forever. Yet if there's one constant in the Sussex story, it's reinvention. Meghan still commands a global platform. Harry can still move headlines with a single interview. A comeback remains possible if they can pivot from curated scarcity to transparent supply, from aspiration to authenticity. But the window is shrinking, and each delayed restock, each unpaid artisan tightens the vice. Now the spotlight turns to you. Do you think Meghan and Harry can salvage as ever with a bold relaunch? Or has the brand already passed the point of no return? And if they do pivot, will you trust the next drop? Or has the scarcity saga cooled your appetite for royal-adjacent luxury? Share your thoughts below. Smash that like if you're here for every dramatic twist. And hit subscribe so you never miss the next deep dive. The next video on your screen is waiting. And believe me, you won't want to miss what comes next.